Coming up, we're connecting you with the creativity and culture in your community, including an artist whose recent work was inspired by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The dots sort of became a representation of how humans connect to each other.
We'll take a look at a series that celebrates and honors the work of Black writers.
Writing, it's one of those few times where we get to really spend time with ourselves and really reflect on the growth that we've had.
And we'll explore this farm-to-vase flower farm.
Flowers especially, they bring us a place in time. You remember those special people looking back and moving forward.
Join us for those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point, your source for creativity, culture, and community. I'm Saidalis Bauer. It's a bit of a cloudy day, but as they say, April showers bring May flowers. It's springtime in New England when the grass grows green and the flowers bloom. And so we're coming to you this evening from Rooted Flowers Farm, located in the Feeding Hills section of the Hampden County town of Agawam, Massachusetts. We'll learn more about Rooted Flowers a bit later in the program, but we start off this evening by taking you to the city of Springfield for our first story. Artist Paul Bloomfield's COVID-19 series was directly inspired by the early weeks of the pandemic. The twin structure of the human lung became the starting point for each of his works in the series. For Bloomfield, the lung suggested a parallel struggle, that we are side by side in this together, but juxtaposed with the reality of suffering alone. The COVID series recently hung at the Amy H. Carberry Fine Arts Gallery on the campus of Springfield Technical Community College, and producer Dave Frazier spoke with both the artist and the gallery director, Sandra Perrone, to find out more.
The imagery can be somewhat disturbing when put into context. Visual artist Paul Bloomfield's instinct was to find some way to reflect the fear and the struggle many people felt throughout the pandemic.
Not that we need reminding of COVID, certainly that's not my intent, but this idea that we experience this thing together, and hopefully that experience is sort of becoming more of the past.
Images of human lungs with droplets build from painting to painting. Using colors, gestures, and patterns, the series allows the viewer an opportunity to reflect on the reality of our collective pain and suffering caused by COVID-19.
To help me process this, just as a human and as an artist, to process this by doing something visual that would sort of help me deal with it, I suppose. So the droplets themselves closely resemble the actual look of the COVID molecule, and the fact that they're delivered by air in a sort of contactless way through the air, like these droplets are, sort of mimics the whole way that COVID is transmitted. And so the painting is almost like a sort of visual interpretation of how that happens.
The COVID-19 series hung at the Amy H. Carberry Fine Arts Gallery on the campus of STCC in March. The gallery features works by artists of local and national repute, as well as student work.
I'm sort of surprised, to be honest, that I did so much. I didn't, as I said to other people, I didn't realize what I was doing. I would do something, work it out, do the colors, the shapes. Okay, I'm done for the day. Put it in a pile, and then the next thing I know, I'd have a pile of work, and that started to build up as a sort of body of work, which I never planned it to be. It sort of evolved that way. Like, none of this was meant to be. I didn't think it would necessarily be in a big show like this.
Sandra Perrone is an associate professor at STCC, as well as gallery director.
The COVID series is a timestamp. It's a moment in time that is never going to happen again, or hopefully never happen again in the way that it has and did. And for Paul, this is a very personal portrayal of the pandemic and COVID and the virus and the representations of it. But I also think his exhibition is a collective experience. You know, when people come into a space like this, they may or may not want to look at COVID in the way that Paul has presented it. But when you do, it is just giving you a moment to reflect.
Bloomfield recalls initial reports of COVID as being a respiratory infection that was caused by droplets transferred through the air. The lungs, to him, suggested a parallel struggle, that we are side by side in this together. But on other days, he saw the irony of being near people, juxtaposed with the reality and pain of suffering alone.
The work itself, because it relied on this idea of dots. The dots sort of ultimately became a representation of how humans connect to each other. And so really, despite the sort of awful and deadly quality of this disease, different kinds of relationships have evolved. We've learned to sort of deal with each other differently and react with maybe better than we did. I don't know, hopefully.
Every week, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England, but it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. The Fine Arts Gallery on the campus of Springfield Technical Community College celebrates the life and creative talents of Amy H. Carberry, an aspiring artist, poet, and alumna of the college who passed away in 2003. The gallery was gifted to the school by her family, and producer Dave Frazier spoke with Associate Professor and Gallery Director Sandra Perrone to learn more about the space.
Art is huge. I think every community needs murals, they need outdoor sculptures, they need site-specific installations. I think if we were to cover up all the art that we enjoy and take for granted, we would suddenly be at a great, great loss.
You can find that digital exclusive online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Performance poet, playwright, and author Nicole M. Martin has over 20 years of experience building her different creative practices, and her latest venture is a web series called Black Writers Read. Born out of a virtual event early in the pandemic, the series provides a platform to showcase, celebrate, and honor the work of Black writers both locally and nationwide. I spoke with young Martin to learn more about this new series and her career across various creative disciplines.
It became a platform to really talk about my personal experience. So first, the writer in me that was born talked about my personal experience, and from there, I'm able to coach people to talk about their own. So as a writing instructor and leading writing workshops, I'm like, there is power in the personal story. So I lead people in terms of how they can gain confidence through sharing their personal story through writing. But writing is so powerful. Like, I've had people who have said to me, oh, I'm not a creative writer. I don't do poetry because poetry is this thing. And I'm like, but poetry is not this thing. Poetry is what you make of it. And the writing prompts that I take people through, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this facet of myself. Like, there's a writing prompt that I do in some of my writing workshops where I ask people to write a letter to their younger self, and just the things that they realize about their life and their growth in that moment. And I'm like, yes. And writing, it's one of those few times where we get to really spend time with ourselves and really reflect on the growth that we've had, our communities and things like that. So writing can be very powerful.
I mean, how is that for you, revisiting some of these past experiences? Like, is there ever a level of vulnerability and hesitation you have with sharing your personal stories?
Oh my gosh, it's such a great question. I've been working on this for a while now, a memoir on dating, and it has since gone on hold since I've gotten married and haven't had those like trials and tribulations of dating. And some of the vulnerability in that writing is not necessarily about me, but it's about like how what I've done has impacted other people or vice versa. So I get very vulnerable about relationships and writing about how other people influence me, because I, one, don't want anyone to come after me with a lawsuit, but also two, I want to honor the fact that it is the story from my point of view. And when I'm writing, that person is not able to share their story. So I have to dance around a little bit in terms of what I share, from changing names to fictionalizing the story and things like that. And then when it comes to writing personally, I think because I grew up as an only child, my brother and I were like 15 years apart. So we grew up as only children.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were not the ones who were, you're seen and not heard. My parents were like, no, we need you to talk. We need, so I became this very boisterous child who always took the stage. So me sharing personal things about myself, sometimes people say you're too much of an open book, but when it comes to talking about relationships and other people, I get really vulnerable because I'm just like, they are not here to contribute to the narrative.
That's such a great point. I love that point. There's another initiative that you've been working on. The pandemic has brought a lot of challenges for people, but it's also brought a lot of opportunity. And in June 2020, you hosted a virtual event that convened 16 Black writers countrywide to talk about their experiences. So what was your vision behind creating this event, and how has that grown since the initial gathering?
You have so many great questions. So Black Writers Read, how it came about. At the time, Trump was looking to host a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on June 19th of that year, which is the anniversary of a huge massacre where Black businesses and Black people were murdered in I think 1921 or something like that. And he was doing it in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Myself and a couple of my writing colleagues were tagged on a post on Facebook, and many people know us as activists, and they're like, can you do something? Because this is just very disrespectful. And I'm like, okay, what can I do in like a week's time? Because this post came out a week before Juneteenth. And I'm like, what can I do in a week? I am really good at putting on events and convening people virtually. So I put a call out, I posted on Facebook, social media, and I said, everyone just send this out. And what happened, I actually got more than 16 writers to apply to read that evening. But I was like, okay, this event is going to be over 3 hours. And virtual, there's just no way we're going to be able to book everyone that night. And given the impact that event had and the number of people we weren't able to engage that evening, it turned into a monthly web series, Black Writers Read, which officially launched in September of 2020. And how it's grown now, we're now in season 2. And originally it was just going to live like on YouTube and Facebook as a live stream. I was recently approached by a literary publicist who has in her coffer like a slate of writers that she wants to have me interview before their books are published. And it's so many people. And I'm like, okay, what can I do with this now? And I'm like, audio podcast. So I'm now adding an audio podcast. We now feature writers from around the globe. I actually am booking someone who I think is based in Guyana. I booked someone who is based in Portugal. And I also got inquiries from people who are in the UK.
Well, and Black Writers Read is a really great example of one of your initiatives that fosters the talents of other creative individuals. And you've done that a lot throughout your career. You had proceeds from your debut spoken word album, Input Live from the Valley, that created a fellowship program for women and non-binary writers of color. And then you just have this Black Writers Read podcast and series. Yeah. So why is community and collaboration so important to you?
I wouldn't be an artist if it weren't for community and collaboration. There are so many local artists, like, for example, Diana Alvarez, Jason Montgomery, Priscilla Page. If it weren't for their mentorship and them pushing me to do what I do, I wouldn't be here. And so because of that, it's the whole kind of paying it forward. It's like, I need to create other opportunities for other people. And then also too, in other industries, because I worked in theater and music prior, those are so hard to break into and the pipelines are intense. And even as a writer, the mainstream pipelines in terms of getting published and things like that are intense. And I experience those myself. And what I'm trying to do is eliminate the barriers that most people experience when they want exposure to their work. So essentially, I'm trying to chisel through the concrete ceiling to open opportunities for other people.
After a fruitless search for a place to start her flower farm, Rebecca Sadlowski got the call in March of 2019 that a nearly 6-acre plot of land in Feeding Hills was available. Soon after, the adventure of turning an overgrown property into the business known as Rooted Flowers was underway. 2022 marks their 3rd year of growing, and Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan visited this field-to-vase flower farm to bring us the story.
Not too long ago, this home on the corner of Shoemaker Lane and Silver Street in Agawam was surrounded by so many old dying trees that it was barely visible from the street. This trailer for an 18-wheeler, which now serves as a storage unit, was once sitting on a lot waiting to be demolished. This unit here, which now keeps flowers cool and fresh, was the back end of a seafood refrigerator truck. It also wasn't too long ago that the idea of turning that which was deemed unusable into functioning cogs in the greater farming operation known as Rooted Flowers was just a sketch on a notepad. But here it is.
This old trailer is just one example of several reclamation projects here in the farm. But before they cleared this land out of all its gnarly brush, deadwood, and smelly mud, this place was a breeding ground for ticks and mosquitoes. So really, the entire 6-acre property is one giant reclamation project.
But even with the property cleared and ready for farming, there was still one revision to be made, and it involved the business plan.
When I started to grow cut flowers, I thought I have to sell these to florists. I can't create a finished product that they're going to want to buy. But they kept asking me for finished products like bouquets and centerpieces and this and that. So my mindset changed. Well, why can't we do that? We're growing the product. I just have to learn design or learn how to create things that are pleasing to the eye. So I did some self-teaching. I went to a few classes, and then that's what ended up happening. We became a cut flower farm that grew for events, and then during the pandemic became essentially a florist.
The start-to-finish aspect of this operation has its perks as well as its detractors. On the one hand, they can really only grow what's in season. The flip side is that their yield is always fresh and has zero travel time. And that's something most people don't even think of when they pick some up at the store.
They're coming from everywhere, and these flowers are traveling for quite some time, sometimes 1 week to up to 2 weeks from harvest to when the stem's getting put into a vase. So we're taking all that out, including, the packaging that might be involved with it, the carbon footprint that might be involved with it. We're field to vase.
Trying to find those vases, the customers need look no further than the shipping container at the head of the property. Again, this was the repurposing of an object that, in turn, became a permanent solution to what was, at the time, a temporary problem.
The initial notion with that was we need a unit that, one, we can sell out of because we didn't have any storefront space. And then we also needed something in the winter months that we could potentially store stuff in because we didn't have that either. Our packaging goods, paper products, cardboard, things like that. So when we brought on the sea container, it was like late summer, fall. We ran the farm stand out of that and then was said, okay, we're going to use the rest of it throughout the year for storage. And now it's just become a full-time farm stand.
Rebecca Sadlowski is a case study in someone following her passion and letting it guide her success. This one-time dental hygienist who used to sell flowers on the side of the road in her spare time when she wasn't putting her hands into people's mouths has now made digging her hands into the dirt a full-time endeavor. And it's because she knows that flowers are a tangible object with so many intangible and desirable qualities.
It's an experience, I think, and I am so passionate about experience, that connection, that local connection. And flowers especially, they bring us a place in time. You remember those special people looking back and moving forward. I've always considered flowers really one of the most genuine gifts. And it's just been a joy to to produce such a thing that we can share with our community.
And if you enjoyed that story, in this week's Digital Extra, Rooted Flowers owner Rebecca Sadlowski talks about the challenges of finding farmland in Western Massachusetts to develop her flower farm.
When I first saw the property and saw the potential, I thought, wow, we're going to turn this around. But as people started coming in to look at the property, like soil scientists, environmentalists, it was a little discouraging because they kept saying, oh, well, it's going to be years before you operate out of here, before you grow anything. But that wasn't an option. It wasn't on the table. We had to be growing the following year.
You can find that Digital Extra online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Internationally renowned violinist Francesca Anderegg has released a new album entitled Brave New Worlds: Music from the Americas. The Berkshire's native, who is widely celebrated for her insightful accounts of contemporary and classical music, presents the works of 4 composers from the 19th and 20th centuries whose music showcases a richness of sounds and styles from across the world. I spoke with Anderegg to learn more about both the album and her work as a musician.
The pianist that I work with, Matthew McCreight, and we've performed concerts together over a number of years. And we decided we wanted to make an album, and we were kind of looking for connections amongst the pieces that we typically perform together. We decided that the music from the Americas was this idea that kind of linked it. So music by Aaron Copland and Amy Beach from North America, and then Alberto Ginastera and Hector Villalobos from South America. So that was our connection.
One of the things that really interested me about your new album was just kind of learning the background of all the different music from throughout the Americas. It's not something I really realized, that this contemporary and classical music exists in so many different countries. What has been your favorite aspect of doing this album?
Some of it was learning a little bit more about the history of this period of time during the early 20th century, when there was a lot of funding and interest in sending artists from Latin America to North America and vice versa. So that was considered to be like a kind of a cultural diplomacy or like relationship building between the nations. So I thought that was really interesting historically. And then I think recording is a very special process as a musician, because it's very time intensive and it's very hard, but you get to sort of listen to, and especially after you've recorded it, when you're listening to how to put it together, and you hear almost like so many different versions of how you could put it together. But I think there's a lot of creativity in what exactly do I want the audience to hear? Because when you're in a live concert hall, of course, there's that wonderful spontaneity, but there's so much that influences what the audience hears that you don't have control over. Somebody coughs, or let's say the piano is like louder in one concert hall, or just how much does the sound echo, or there's so many of those tiny things that you just don't even know, and it can always be different. And that's very exciting. But I think on a recording, you have the ability using technology to control exactly how much reverberation there is, and just getting really into the details of that, and being really creative with that to say, like, this is really what we want the audience to hear in this piece.
And the composers are described for this album as using music's power to expand our sense of space and time. How do you feel that contemporary music is really good at doing this?
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
So, so because a lot of times, music that's particularly slow will kind of alter our sense of time, right? Or music that has unusually long phrases, and that's certainly true in the third movement of the Amy Beach Sonata for violin. The phrases are like 2 minutes long. I mean, usually we think of phrases as like 4 bars, but these are just so long phrases. And so in that way it can influence. It can also, composers can use music to influence our sense of time in other ways. So sometimes, for example, in the Copland, there's a lot of like unpredictability in how the music unfolds. And I think that also kind of alters our sense of time. So I think there's just a certain freedom to how these particular composers used time, which alters the experience when we listen. And so that's something interesting to realize, as a musician and as a listener.
So you grew up in the Berkshires, which is what brings you back to this area for performances. What is it about this area that you love and you just really can't stay away from?
I love the little towns. I love to go to Lenox. I love to go to Great Barrington, Stockbridge. And I love the mountains also, because now I live in the Midwest. It's very flat. And so I miss that forests and hills around me. So those are just some of the things that I like.
And that does it for this edition of Connecting Point. Remember, you can always find all of the stories that you saw in this episode, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and so much more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. Our thanks to Rooted Flowers Farm in Agawam for hosting us this evening. And please be sure to join us again every week right here for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Sadlowski Bauer. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.